At the beginning of the film, a terrified businessman is seen being recorded as he reveals secrets about a dangerous organization. After the meeting, the man heads to his car, but suddenly a jeep crashes into him. Despite trying to fight back, his car is pushed off the upper level of the parking structure and he is killed. We are then introduced to Will Gerard, an English teacher who is out on a date with his wife, Laura, a musician. They're celebrating their wedding anniversary. On the TV, they see news coverage about the man's death and comment that even though the city is falling apart, they're still able to enjoy themselves. Okay, so I don't know what's happening. Well, the city may be going to hell, but we are going dancing. That night, they go dancing with Will's best friend, Jimmy, who's also the principal at Will's school, and his wife. After a romantic evening, Will gives Laura a necklace as a symbol of their love. The next day, after work, Will and Jimmy meet for their usual chess match, which they take quite seriously. Ready to suffer? Bring it on. Meanwhile, Laura finishes orchestra rehearsal and walks to her car. Suddenly, an armed man appears, drags her into a car, and brutally assaults her despite her resistance. Right after parting ways, Will gets a notification on his phone and rushes to the hospital, finding Laura battered and nearly unresponsive. She gave us a description. I'm working up a composite likeness. We're gonna get there. Outside the Jimmy and a friend named Trudy arrive to show their support. Jimmy believes the police will catch the perpetrator and offers to help Will with anything he needs. Son of a bitch, you did this to Laura, I got to find him. While Will sits alone in the waiting area, a well-dressed man approaches him and introduces himself as Simon. He says he's been through the same thing and claims to know who attacked Laura, a repeat offender named Hatch. Simon then makes a shocking offer. He and his organization can take care of Hatch so Laura won't have to go through a long and painful trial. In exchange, Will might be asked to return the favor with a small task sometime later. At first, Will hesitates, but driven by a desire for revenge, he agrees. To accept the offer, he's instructed to buy 2 chocolate bars from a vending machine as a signal, which he does, under the watchful eyes of several strangers. That night, Hardgay returns to his apartment, seemingly pleased after stealing Laura's necklace. Suddenly, a glove man appears and holds him at gunpoint. Hardgay tries to fight back, but is ultimately shot and killed. What the fuck, you raped a woman tonight? The next day, Will receives a package from a man claiming to be from the insurance company. Inside, we'll find a photo of the dead Hudge and Laura's necklace. He shares the news with Laura, who is still recovering, and she breaks down in relief. He's dead, committed suicide. I talked to the police this morning. They return home, though Laura's face is still bruised. She asks her to change the locks and install bars on the windows. I'm sorry. I know. I'll find a way to get over this. It's just hard. 6 months go by as they continue trying to recover. Laura wants to buy a gun, but Will refuses, not wanting any firearms in the house. Still, Laura secretly takes shooting lessons and buys pepper spray. Bring the gun to your eyesight, pick up that front sight, from your sight. There's your pepper spray. Take care. Thanks. One night at a bar, Will receives a call from Simon asking to meet. He's instructed to buy gum from a store and exit through the back door, where Simon is waiting in a car. Will reluctantly gets in, and Simon hands him an envelope. He's asked to mail a letter at exactly 4:15 p.m. the next day. At the zoo, where the mailbox is located, Will receives a call telling him to open the letter. Inside is a photo of a man with his family and a phone number. Simon instructs Will to monitor the man and give the signal using the phrase, "The hungry rabbit jumps." Will follows the man's wife and kids around the zoo, but never sees the man himself. The next day at school, Will is shocked to see the phone number from the letter written on a chalkboard. Furious, he calls Simon, who is already waiting for him outside the school. Will refuses to continue working with them, feeling his privacy has been violated, but Simon reminds him of their agreement. Okay, we just need you to do one more thing. Will, a promise is a promise, okay? I'll be in touch. Later, Will meets a stranger who hands him documents claiming the man he's tracking is a criminal. When Will gets home, Simon calls again and tells him to push the man off a bridge. Will protests, but Simon won't back down. The next day, after finding his car tires slashed, Will takes the bus and spots the target. But when he reaches the bridge, he can't go through with it and keeps walking. Simon confronts him again at school, threatening him, but Will stands firm and refuses to kill. That night, while having dinner with Laura, Simon suddenly shows up, disguised as one of Will's old county workers. Someone slashed our tires. How did they even get in the garage area? What's the matter? Will Gerard? I thought it was you. Simon Adams, we taught over at Bartram together, remember? Right. Call me Will. Realizing the threat is growing, Will checks their home and finds refrigerator magnets spelling out the word choose. He searches the house, but finds nothing. Honey, I think I left something in the car. I'll be right back. Pretending to go to the car, he calls the number Simon gave him, only to reach a funeral home. He asks them to pass on a message. Tell Simon to leave his family alone. Hello? Courtesy funeral home. What do we tell Simon to leave my wife the fuck alone? When Val returns home, the front door is open and Laura thinks he just stepped outside. She also sees the word choose on the fridge again. The next morning Will gets off the bus at the same bridge and sees the target do the same. Will tries to talk to him. But the man gets suspicious and attacks Will. Mr. Walchak, I need to speak with you. No. In the struggle, he falls off the bridge and dies. Will panics and runs off, catching the next bus. Meanwhile, Laura finds her necklace in the car glove box. Will gets a call from Simon, thanking him for completing the task and saying their deal is done. But things begin spiraling for Will. He sees two students fighting and impulsively punches one of them, earning a 3-week suspension. Hey, get up. Come on, break it up. Hands off me, faggot, there's a minimum 3-week suspension. At home, Laura confronts Will about the necklace. Will refuses to explain, and Laura leaves for rehearsal. Shortly after, 2 detectives arrive and arrest Will for murder. During the interrogation, Will denies killing anyone. The police show surveillance footage of him and the victim, Alan, walking toward the bridge, though the fall itself wasn't captured. They also show a video from Alan's phone of Will tailing his family at the zoo. Shocked, Will learns Alan was an investigative journalist. With no way out, Will asks for a lawyer. But the lieutenant refuses since he hasn't been formally charged. The lieutenant starts asking out questions, then says the phrase, "The hungry rabbit jumps." When Will responds, the lieutenant lets him go and advises him to leave town before Simon kills him. The hungry rabbit jumps. If you don't go now, you won't make it through the night. I'm gonna leave the room. Wait 10 seconds and get the fuck out of here. It'll kill you and make it look like a suicide. Shut the probe behind. Laura tries to reach Will, but the call is answered by the police. Will then calls Trudy from a payphone and leaves a message for Laura, saying he'll meet her after rehearsal the next day. Will visits the school and digs deeper into Alan's background, eventually finding the location of his memorial service. He sneaks into Laura's rehearsal and explains everything. Laura understands and says she would have done the same for him. She gives him money and a gun before police enter the building, forcing Will to flee. If they had asked me that night, I would have done the same thing. You can't stay at home. Go to Lafitte's hotel. You can tell them everything. Some of them are cops. Well, what are you going to do? It was the same guys who came to our apartment. At Alan's memorial, Will steals his ID. He speaks to Alan's colleagues and learns Alan was investigating Simon's vigilante organization. That's why Simon wanted him dead. But a woman recognizes Will and calls Simon. 2 of Simon's men arrive, realizing the danger. Will escapes and is chased by one of them while the other joins Simon in a car. Will sprints across the highway and jumps over a fence, dropping his phone. One of the men tries to follow, but gets hit and dragged by a car. God damn it. Laura leaves her apartment and is approached by a detective who claims to have evidence to clear Will. But halfway through the ride, Laura realizes they're not cops. She pepper sprays them and escapes. Will breaks into Alan's office and steals files from his desk. As he flees, he spots a police car and slips into a nearby hotel. He steals a suit and valet ticket, drives off, and watches a DVD from Alan's files. It shows an interview with a businessman from the start of the film talking about the vigilante group. Will also sees a photo of Simon with Jimmy, his best friend. You know, if they find out I'm talking to you, they're gonna kill me. Who's Simon? Simon gives us our order. Anybody he designated as unworthy of living. He runs my cell. I don't know his real name. But it was just supposed to be the worst, you know? Rapists, murderers, child molesters. But then Simon, he started to. We also use people who have made a deal with us. Who? What's the favor? Simon's out of control, and I have no way. Will rushes to Jimmy's house and holds him at gunpoint. Jimmy admits he joined the organization after his brother was murdered and was the one who got the lieutenant to release Will. Will forces Jimmy to give him Simon's real name, then leaves, unaware he's being followed. Later, a man pulls a gun on Will, mistaking him for a criminal, but Will disarms him and lets him go. 100 rabbit jumps. 100 rabbit jumps. I was just told to wait for you there. Biola killed a man that murdered my sister. Simon? Yeah. He then calls Simon and reveals he knows his real name. Eugene Cook will send him the interview video and demands the bridge surveillance footage in exchange. They agree to meet at the Superdome during a monster truck show. Meanwhile, Jimmy visits Trudy and asks for Laura's location, claiming he wants to help. He tracks Laura down, but before he can help, several men burst into the room where she's hiding. At the venue, Simon gets Will's call with directions for the meet. When they meet, Simon shows a photo of Laura tied up and orders him to come along. They drive to an abandoned mall where Laura is being held by Jimmy and other men. Simon takes the video from Will and orders his men to kill both Will and Laura. Will calls Simon a sick man, provoking him. Suddenly, Jimmy shoots the man next to Laura, and Will pushes another one off the escalator. I said, I think you're sick. Get it though. Definitely no choice. Will. What the Jimmy? Jimmy and Simon exchange fire, as Jimmy reveals he didn't join the group to kill innocent people. Jimmy is shot in the chest and dies. Laura escapes, but Simon chases her. Will tackles him, and they fight until both tumble down the escalator. As Simon is about to shoot Will, Laura shoots him first, killing him. The lieutenant arrives and says that Simon and Jimmy killed each other, and that Will and Laura were never there. He also invites Will to join their organization, but Will declines. Later, Will is cleared of all charges when footage of his confrontation with Alan is made public. He goes to Alan's old office and gives the interview video to a reporter. As the reporter takes the footage, he says the hungry rabbit jumps, then walks away, revealing that he, too, is part of the organization. Will is left in shock.